the purpose of the first chapter is actually you setting up the axioms that are self-evident so that the other chapters can make sense.
Exactly.
It's like the mathematical statements that are kind of obvious. In this case, the variables are being, reality, and truth. And you start by defining being. If something is, then the being, it is a being. Then the next self-evident truth is reality is what is. And then the third is truth is regardless of truth is regards to, submits to. And so as if we understand these rules, these axioms, then we can start reorienting ourselves. And no matter how we look at it, what language we use to interpret it, you can always work yourself back to those three fundamental rules.
Right.
And
well,
that's your leaves. Okay. All right. Okay, I see. That's your leaves. No matter what leaf or branch you start from, if you get lost, you can always come back to the tree.
Right.
Then kind of build back up.
Because that's the question is, what do we do when we're lost? We start at the bottom. And when we start at the bottom, what do? We start with the whole. And so Carolina, you're asking, is this your reality? Is this our reality? What is it? So I want to know when we target the thing at the top of the transcendent hierarchy, what sets of affordances and obstacles emerge? Because I'm not lying when I use oil and gas language to talk about the productivity of an oil well. Those aren't false words, but you could live without them. And people did. Human beings lived for a long time without those categories. Human beings lived for a long time without pursuing that goal. It's not the most important goal. So when we pursue the most important goal, what categories emerge? What language emerges as a result of that? Because if that thing transcends me as an individual, that means that we ought to be able to communicate to one another about the reality that we're living in. We ought to be able to resolve problems between the oil and gas guy and the conservationist because we're living in the same place.
I suppose then that is truth. Mm-hmm. And that is truth then it doesn't matter what layer you're looking at, what level of complexity you're looking at, it transcends whatever reality will mean for people in the next 200 years. Maybe oil and gas is not the chain. It's like bananas and avocados are like the new thing. It's the truth is there is always this persistent hierarchy that's leading up to some ultimate, as you say, good. And that is the truth. And that's the thing that persists, regardless of how our language changes or our perception changes or reality changes. That stays true throughout everything.
Did you have something, Megan?
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that I think one other piece of imagery that comes to mind that we've kind of discussed before that I think also gets at this point, not saying you need to use it, but is I think we've talked before about how if you view everyone's realities as a Venn diagram, right? There's always going to be a percentage of my reality that has no overlap with your reality because things exist in my world that don't exist in your world. And it is true that perception of the world you live in also creates your reality, right? But when it comes to finding what's true, essentially what you have to do is butt up against other people's realities as much as possible and see okay, where's the overlap between my reality and your reality and this person's reality who I have hardly anything in common with, because if you're from somewhere else and you have a totally different life experience than me, but we find this 10% of our realities that overlaps, that's where the real truth lies, the objective truth. So anyway, just kind of a comment that I think that's a discussion we've had before that I think also helps describe this definition of reality that you're getting at. It's this maybe small but piece that does exist where everyone's Venn diagram overlaps, right? It's that centerpiece.
Yes, and like you said, Jeff, the truth it's omnipresent and it's eternal, but there is a kind of truth which is not omnipresent and is not eternal. So right now, a guy named Zach is talking to his friends about writing a book. That's not going to be true forever. It's true right now. Right now, we're using a program called Zoom to facilitate that. That's not going to be true forever. but it's true. But what we care about when we're reorienting ourselves is the axioms, like you said. So that's what I'm trying to get at, because I encountered this situation where I realized my axioms are false. They're super wrong. And if I build my life on this, I will build my life wrong. I don't want to do that, because I live in this world it's changing and it's crazy, but like I want to live it well. I feel like I have a really good life. I feel like I have something to do here. I have this sense that it's special to be here, that I have a responsibility to do something good, but I can't do that if my axioms are wrong. Everything else that follows is going to be wrong. So I think that, like, you know, Megan, you are a expert athlete and a Muay Thai fighter, and you know things that I will never need to know, and they're true. But if you came down with a disease that caused your muscles to atrophy and you could not do anything athletic anymore, then you still live here and you still have to do something. Now you have to do something else. So your whole structure that led you to Muay Thai collapses. Where do you go? You have to start at the bottom.